Have you ever noticed that the harder you chase something, the further it seems to run? But then the moment you let go, the call comes, the answer appears, the peace arrives. What if surrender isn't about weakness, but the gateway to everything you've been seeking? Welcome to today's episode, a reflection on a paradox that might just change your life: surrender. We're taught from a young age to push, to hustle, to never give up. But what if the very act of pushing is what's blocking the flow? What if your obsession with control is the reason you feel so out of control? Today, I want to walk with you through the landscape of surrender, not as defeat, but as transformation. Through stories, insights, and Stoic wisdom, we'll explore how surrender is not giving up on life. It's giving up on force. Let's begin. Most of us live with an illusion that if we just try harder, grip tighter, or think more, we can force life into our design. And for a while, that illusion serves us. We hustle, we plan, we visualize, we execute. We control the variables, try to eliminate risks, manage people's expectations, and build structures around uncertainty. This works brilliantly in some areas, like engineering or budgeting. But when it comes to the flow of life, relationships, emotions, timing, inspiration, control becomes a liability, not an asset. Let me share a personal story. A few years ago, I launched a project I cared deeply about. I had spreadsheets, schedules, marketing plans, and a carefully mapped timeline. I micromanaged every detail. I called every contact. I refreshed my email 200 times a day, waiting for confirmation, waiting for results. I was so obsessed with making it happen that I lost the very spark that had inspired it in the first place. Eventually, the project flopped. Not because the idea wasn't good, but because I was clenching too tightly. My energy was frantic. My communication was forced. The creativity disappeared. I was no longer connected to the purpose. I was addicted to the outcome. That experience shook me, and in the aftermath, I read something that changed my life. Your desire to control is rooted in your fear that you cannot handle the unknown. That hit me hard, because it was true. I didn't trust the process. I didn't trust timing. And most of all, I didn't trust myself. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology did. Epictetus taught, "Some things are in our control and others not." This sounds simple, but it's one of the most liberating and humbling truths you can internalize. The moment you separate what's yours to shape and what's not, you reclaim your energy. You stop scattering your spirit across 1,000 what-ifs. Think about your own life. How often do you try to manage other people's perceptions of you? How much of your emotional energy goes into controlling outcomes you can't predict? How often do you obsess over the timing of things, when you'll meet the right person, when the opportunity will come, when healing will finally happen? Here's the truth. The more you try to micromanage life, the more life resists you. Like holding water in your hands, the tighter you squeeze, the more you lose. Control gives you a temporary sense of power, but it costs you your peace. So what happens when you begin to drop the rope? First, you feel scared, vulnerable, naked. You're used to being the one in charge, used to feeling on top of it. But beneath that discomfort is something softer, something spacious, relief. You no longer need to make things happen. You show up fully, but you stop gripping. You stop forcing conversations. You stop refreshing your inbox every 5 minutes. You stop chasing alignment like a predator hunting peace. Instead, you breathe. You act with integrity. You release the outcome. And that's when something remarkable begins to unfold. Life, which you thought needed to be controlled, begins to cooperate. You meet the right person without trying. The opportunity shows up, unannounced. You wake up feeling free, even if nothing outside has changed, because something inside has. You've dropped the illusion. You've released the grip. You've stopped trying to dominate reality and started dancing with it. And the dance only begins when you loosen your stance. In the previous part, we unmasked the illusion of control, how it drains our energy, narrows our vision, and quietly feeds our anxiety. But if control is the illusion, then what's the truth that sets us free? Surrender. But let's be honest, surrender has a branding problem. We often associate it with weakness, with giving up, with defeat. In a world that praises hustle and domination, surrender sounds like failure. But real surrender is not collapse. It is strength, elevated, not loud, not aggressive, but rooted, grounded, and deeply powerful. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Elisa. On the surface, she had everything. Career success, a beautiful home, a calendar filled with important meetings and bigger goals. But beneath that structure was a crumbling soul. She was exhausted, disconnected, and haunted by the silent ache of never enough. She came to me during a workshop I was leading on resilience. Her question wasn't about goals. It was whispered quietly during a break. How do I stop fighting? Everything? She wasn't talking about fighting people. She was talking about the battle inside her, fighting the voice that said she should do more, be more, prove more. Fighting time, fighting failure, fighting her own heart's need for rest. We sat down. I asked her one question. What would happen if you stopped pushing? Tears filled her eyes. She whispered, I don't know. That's when she realized she had never lived without resistance. Her entire identity was built on effort, and effort had brought her far, but it had also become her prison. We began working with the idea of surrender, and she resisted. Of course she did. Her mind said, if I surrender, I'll lose everything, I'll fall behind, I'll disappear. But what happened was the opposite. Over time, as she let go, something returned. Her joy, her clarity, her health, her sense of being here, not always chasing a future that never arrived. That's what surrender does. It doesn't take your power away. It gives you a more authentic kind of power. Not the power to control outcomes, but the power to be present, to accept, to act with alignment instead of anxiety. Let's be clear. Surrender is not doing nothing. Surrender is doing the right thing without clinging to a result. It is saying, I will show up fully. I will give with love. I will release the grip on how it all turns out. Marcus Aurelius put it beautifully. Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and you will go on well. This is the secret of all great creators, leaders, and even spiritual teachers. They act and then they let go. When you move from fear, your actions are frantic. When you move from surrender, your actions are clean, purposeful, peaceful. Here's another truth. Surrender isn't just a mental decision. It's a full-body experience. You can feel when you're holding on too tight, your shoulders tense, your breath shallow, your thoughts racing. And you can feel when surrender settles in, your jaw unclenches, your chest softens, your presence deepens. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is exhale. Surrender is a returning to your body, to your breath, to trust. And perhaps, most importantly, to self-respect, and because it takes courage to stop running. It takes power to stop pretending. It takes wisdom to say, I will let life move through me, not just by me. If you've ever let go of something and watched your peace return, even before circumstances changed, you've tasted this truth. Though ask yourself, what am I still fighting out of habit? What part of me believes that tension equals worth? What would surrender look like right now, in this breath, this moment? Because surrender is not the absence of action, it is the presence of trust, and trust is the birthplace of miracles. We've now seen that surrender isn't weakness, it's a shift in energy from control to clarity. But how do you actually practice that shift in the real world? When life is rushing, demands are piling up, and your mind wants to cling to certainty. How do you live surrender, not just understand it? The truth is, surrender doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't require a grand retreat into the mountains. It happens in the ordinary moments, at the coffee shop, in traffic, during an argument, or while staring at a screen filled with unanswered messages. And the more subtle the moment, the more profound the opportunity. Here are 5 practical, grounded, and repeatable ways to begin building surrender into your everyday life. Name what you can't control. This sounds simple, but it's a radical act of clarity. Our minds are often tangled in thoughts like, what will they think? What if this doesn't work? Why hasn't it happened yet? By writing down the things you're obsessing over, and then circling the ones you can't control, You pull yourself out of the illusion and into truth. Try this. At the start of your day, make 2 columns, in my control and not in my control. Fill them in honestly, then focus your energy only on what's in that first column. This one practice can reduce 70% of your mental exhaustion. Why? Because most of our burnout isn't from doing too much. It's from thinking too much about what we can't control. Practice micro-surrenders throughout the day. Think of surrender like a muscle. It grows stronger with repetition, not force. And the easiest way to build it is through micro-surrenders, tiny moments where you consciously let go. Examples: you're in traffic and someone cuts you off. Instead of reacting, you take a breath and whisper, "Not mine to carry." You send an important email and instead of refreshing every 10 minutes, you say, "The outcome will arrive when it's time." You feel your shoulders clench before a meeting. You exhale, relax your jaw and allow the moment to unfold. These are tiny wins, but stacked together, they reshape your nervous system. You go from reactive to responsive, from control to calm. Build a surrender journal. Instead of tracking only goals and habits, track your letting go. Each evening, reflect, where did I surrender today? Where did I try to force or fix? What did I learn from trusting the moment instead? Over time, you'll begin to see a pattern, that the more you surrender, the more things flow. Decisions become clearer, conversations smoother, even setbacks feel less sharp. The journal becomes a mirror of your growth, not just in doing, but in being. Use anchoring phrases. Words shape energy. The Stoics knew this, so does modern neuroscience. When you repeat certain truths, they begin to embed into your thinking. Here are some powerful ones for surrender. I release the outcome. I trust the timing of life. I do not chase, I attract. This is not mine to carry. Let it be enough. Post them on your mirror. Use them as your phone lock screen. Whisper them in difficult moments. Mantras are not magic spells. They are reminders of the wisdom you already carry. Let the body lead. Your body often knows how to surrender long before the mind catches up. Stretch your arms wide. Soften your belly. Shake out tension from your hands. Sit in stillness for 2 minutes and let gravity hold you. These physical gestures signal to your nervous system, we're safe. We don't need to fight. When your body feels peace, your mind follows. Practicing surrender is not about being passive or indifferent. It's about reclaiming your energy from places it never belonged. It's about showing up for your life, not with clenched fists, but with open hands. Every time you surrender, you create space for grace, for timing, for intuition, for alignment. And over time, surrender stops feeling like letting go and starts feeling like coming home. So as we prepare to explore what follows surrender, let's remember, the real magic begins when we stop trying to create peace and simply let it in. Part 4. The stillness that follows. After practicing surrender, through breath, through awareness, through letting go of control, something surprising begins to emerge. It doesn't crash in like a tidal wave. It doesn't shout. It tiptoes in softly, patiently. Stillness, not silence, not numbness, not boredom, but a stillness that holds you like a trusted friend. A stillness that is alive, intelligent, and present. It has weight like a warm blanket wrapped around your soul. It's not the absence of thought, but the absence of resistance. Let me describe what it feels like, and because you may have already experienced it. You're sitting by a window after a long day. You've put your phone away. The sun is slipping beneath the rooftops. For a moment, nothing is happening, and yet everything is alive. You feel it in your chest, a kind of expansion, a quiet awe. You're not planning. You're not fixing. You're not waiting for the next thing. You are with yourself. Fully, this is the stillness that follows surrender. Stillness is not something you chase. It is something that appears when the inner noise quiets. It shows up when the fight ends, the fight to be elsewhere, to be more, to be done. In a world that worships movement, stillness is radical. In a culture that celebrates speed, stillness is revolutionary. Yet it is in stillness that we truly begin to hear life. We hear our intuition, no longer buried under urgency. We hear the wisdom of our body, no longer drowned out by stress. We hear the subtle invitations of the universe, the people, signs and openings that only make sense when we are listening. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Stillness doesn't mean escape. It means return to your own soul, to your own center, to that place within you that is already whole. Here's what begins to shift when you make space for stillness. Your decisions become cleaner, not based on pressure but alignment. Your presence deepens. People feel safe around you, and because you are safe with yourself, your creativity returns, not from pressure but from space. In stillness, you begin to live not just from logic, but from awareness. You become the observer of your life, not just the actor. There's a story I often return to about a man who spent decades chasing enlightenment. He meditated, he fasted, he studied with teachers in India, monks in Japan, but peace never stayed. One day, exhausted, he sat by a riverbank and gave up. No effort, no expectation, just sat and watched the water move. And in that moment, the thing he had been seeking had found him. This is the paradox. Stillness cannot be forced. It can only be allowed. You create the conditions. You release the grip. And stillness arrives not as a reward, but as a reminder. You are already enough. So how can you practice inviting stillness? Create small spaces between activities. Go for walks without your phone. Light a candle and breathe with it. End your day not with a screen, but with silence. It doesn't take hours. It takes presence. Stillness is what allows you to meet life without frenzy, to grieve without collapse, to hope without clinging, to act without ego. And in stillness, something sacred begins to return. Your trust, your softness, your sense of timing, your connection with something greater. Call it nature, the Tao, the divine, or simply your own heart. This is what surrender makes space for. And now that we've felt the power of stillness, let's explore what it makes room for. Next, the final step, letting go completely. So I ask you today, what are you still forcing? What are you still gripping, hoping it will bend to your will? And what might happen if just for today you let it go? You are not giving up your power. You are reclaiming your peace. Because everything you're looking for, the clarity, the alignment, the abundance, comes not from pushing harder, but from surrendering deeper. So breathe, trust, let go, and let life meet you where you are.